Every home starts with good intentions. You want it to look beautiful, you want it to last. You want it to feel solid, valuable, and safe. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The wrong building materials can silently sabotage all of that. They can make your home age faster, cost more to maintain, lose resale value, and even create health risks. And the worst part? Many of these materials are still widely used because they're cheaper upfront or aggressively marketed. In 2026, with construction costs higher and buyer expectations sharper than ever, choosing the wrong materials isn't just a cosmetic mistake. It's a long-term financial liability. Today, we're breaking down 10 building materials you should never use in your home if you care about durability, value, and peace of mind. Let's start with one of the most common offenders, low-grade laminate countertops. On the surface, laminate seems budget-friendly and practical. But thin laminate surfaces with visible seams and particle board cores are highly vulnerable to moisture. Once water penetrates an edge or seam, the core swells. That swelling cannot be reversed. Edges bubble, corners chip. In kitchens and bathrooms, where water exposure is constant, this deterioration can happen faster than expected. Replacing countertops involves not only material cost, but labor, potential backsplash damage, and plumbing disconnections. A slightly higher investment in solid surface materials or quality stone alternatives dramatically increases longevity and resale appeal. Cheap laminate may save a few thousand upfront, but can cost much more in premature replacement. Material number 2, hollow core interior doors. They are lightweight, inexpensive, and extremely common in builder-grade construction. But they dent easily, transmit sound effortlessly, and feel flimsy every time you close them. Over time, they warp and lose structural integrity. Replacing interior doors after installation involves removing trim, repainting, and rehanging hardware. Solid core doors, while slightly more expensive upfront, provide better sound insulation, durability, and a premium feel. Doors are used daily. The tactile experience matters more than most people realize. Next, let's talk about vinyl flooring at the lowest quality tier. Not all vinyl is bad, but thin, low-grade vinyl planks with minimal wear layers scratch, dent, and fade quickly. In high-traffic areas, wear patterns appear within a few years. Once damaged, individual planks may not match replacements due to batch variations. Complete floor replacement becomes necessary. Investing in thicker, higher quality flooring with realistic texture and is strong wear layer significantly extends lifespan. Flooring is one of the largest surfaces in your home. Choosing the cheapest option almost always results in visible aging. Material number 4, particle board cabinetry. Cabinets made from low-density particle board cores are highly susceptible to moisture damage. Under-sink leaks or even humidity fluctuations can cause swelling and structural weakening. Hinges loosen as screws lose grip in compressed wood fibers, drawer tracks fail. Once cabinets begin deteriorating, repair is rarely practical, replacement becomes inevitable. Solid plywood box construction, even with moderate door finishes, dramatically increases durability. The cabinet core matters more than the surface veneer. Now let's address cheap exterior siding. Low-quality vinyl siding can warp under heat, crack under impact, and fade unevenly over time. Thin panels rattle and wind. Repairs often result in mismatched color sections due to sun fading. Exterior materials face constant exposure to UV radiation, moisture, and temperature shifts. Choosing siding solely based on lowest cost often leads to premature replacement. Higher-grade siding materials with proper installation reduce maintenance and protect curb appeal long-term. Material number 6, basic asphalt shingles at the lowest durability rating. Roofing is your primary defense against weather. Entry-level shingles may carry shorter warranties and reduced wind resistance. In harsh climates, they degrade faster, leading to leaks and costly interior damage. Roof replacement is one of the most expensive home maintenance tasks. Spending slightly more on higher quality shingles or alternative roofing systems increases lifespan and resilience significantly. Let's talk about plastic plumbing fixtures and connectors. Low-grade plastic fittings can become brittle over time, especially with temperature fluctuations. Leaks behind walls often go unnoticed until damage spreads. Water damage repair frequently involves drywall removal, mold remediation, and structural drying. Choosing durable plumbing components reduces long-term risk. Water systems should prioritize reliability over minimal savings. Another material to avoid is thin drywall with minimal sound insulation properties in shared walls. In multi-level homes or houses with close living quarters, thin drywall transmits sound easily. Fixing sound transmission later requires opening walls or adding secondary layers. Upgrading drywall thickness and incorporating sound dampening insulation during construction costs relatively little compared to retrofitting. Material number 9, low-grade exterior paint. Cheap paint fades, chalks, and peels quickly under UV exposure. Repainting a house prematurely adds labor and scaffolding costs. Higher quality exterior paint systems last significantly longer and protect underlying materials more effectively. Paint is not just aesthetic, it is protective. Finally, avoid using untreated wood in moisture-prone areas. Whether it's decking, trim, or framing exposed to potential humidity, untreated wood deteriorates faster. Rot spreads quietly, structural integrity weakens. Replacement often requires removing adjacent finishes. Treated lumber or moisture-resistant alternatives provide essential protection in vulnerable zones. Now here's the pattern behind all 10 of these materials. They are appealing because they reduce upfront cost. Builders may promote them to keep bids competitive. Homeowners may choose them to stay within budget. But building is not just about initial price. It's about life cycle cost. Materials that fail early require removal. Removal damages adjacent systems. Labor for demolition, disposal, and reinstallation multiplies expenses. Think about this. Replacing a cheap countertop is not just the cost of the new surface. It includes disconnecting plumbing, potentially damaging backsplash tile, repainting walls, and reinstalling fixtures. Replacing low-grade siding involves scaffolding, disposal fees, and repainting trim. Replacing cabinets requires countertop removal and plumbing disconnection. Correction is never isolated. In 2026, with labor rates elevated and material volatility ongoing, the cost of rework is higher than ever. That means the margin for error has shrunk. Prevention is dramatically cheaper than correction. There's also the perception factor. Homes built with visibly low-grade materials feel temporary. Buyers sense it immediately. Even if systems behind the walls are solid, surface materials communicate value. A home that shows wear quickly loses buyer confidence. Perceived quality influences resale offers significantly. But here's the deeper layer. Durability creates peace of mind. When you choose materials that withstand wear, moisture, temperature changes, and daily use, you eliminate constant worrying. You're not inspecting for bubbling laminate edges. You're not listening for hollow door rattles. You're not watching siding warp under summer heat. That mental relief matters. This doesn't mean you must choose the most expensive material in every category. It means you must avoid the lowest performing tier when durability matters. Allocate budget strategically. Prioritize structural components, moisture barriers, and high-use surfaces. Finish can evolve. Structural failures are expensive. Before selecting any material, ask 3 questions. How does it respond to moisture? How does it respond to impact and wear? How difficult is it to replace if it fails? Materials that fail easily and are hard to replace should be avoided at all costs. The illusion of savings is powerful during construction. Budgets feel tight, upgrades feel optional. But every downgrade carries risk, and risk has a price. In 5 years, you won't remember saving a few $1,000s on cabinetry cores. But you will remember writing a check to replace swollen boxes after a minor leak. You won't remember choosing thin shingles to reduce cost. But you will remember interior ceiling stains after a storm. Building a home is a long-term investment. Materials define whether that investment strengthens over time or erodes quietly. The smartest homeowners in 2026 understand that cheap materials are not neutral choices. They are future liabilities. Choose materials that age gracefully. Choose components that resist moisture and wear. Choose durability over immediate savings. Because when materials fail, they don't just cost money, they cost trust in your own home. And that is a price far higher than the upgrade ever would have been. When people think about building mistakes, they usually think about design errors. Wrong layout, bad lighting, poor color choices. But the most expensive regrets don't come from style, they come from materials. Because materials determine how your house performs under stress, under moisture, under heat, under daily wear. And once they fail, you don't just replace them. You dismantle everything around them. That's where the real cost begins. Let's go deeper into what happens when you choose the wrong materials. Take low-density MDF trim in high-moisture areas. Medium-density fiberboard is inexpensive and easy to paint, which makes it popular for baseboards and door casings. But in bathrooms, laundry rooms, basements, or even humid climates, MDF absorbs moisture. It swells, corners soften, paint bubbles. Once swelling starts, it cannot be reversed. Replacing trim requires cutting, repainting, and often touching up surrounding walls. Solid wood or moisture-resistant composite trim costs more initially, but withstands environmental changes far better. The difference between minor upgrade cost and full replacement cost becomes obvious quickly. Now consider cheap carpet padding. Many homeowners focus on the visible carpet and ignore what's underneath. Low-quality padding compresses rapidly, causing carpets to wear unevenly and feel flat within a few years. Replacing carpet prematurely involves furniture moving, disposal fees, and labor. Higher density padding extends carpet life significantly. It's invisible, but critical. Skipping quality underlayment to save a few $100s often results in thousands spent sooner than expected. Another material that quietly drains money is thin house wrap or improperly installed moisture barriers. The protective membrane behind siding is one of the most important lines of defense against water intrusion. Cheap or poorly installed wrap allows moisture to penetrate sheathing and framing. You won't see the damage until rot spreads. By the time siding is removed to repair sheathing, the cost multiplies. Proper moisture barriers and careful installation are foundational. They protect every other investment layered on top. Let's talk about low-grade caulking and sealants. Cheap sealant cracks and shrinks faster under UV exposure and temperature shifts. Small cracks allow water to infiltrate around windows and trim. What looks like a minor cosmetic issue becomes structural deterioration over time. High-performance sealants cost slightly more but maintain elasticity longer. Sealing details are small, but their failure leads to large repairs. Now consider basic single-pane or low-efficiency windows. Even if initial cost savings seem attractive, energy loss compounds annually. Drafts increase heating and cooling demand. Condensation can damage surrounding materials. Replacing windows later requires removing trim, disturbing siding, and repainting. Investing in energy-efficient, well-installed windows from the beginning protects comfort and lowers utility costs for decades. Another dangerous shortcut is using untreated interior framing lumber in areas prone to occasional moisture exposure, such as basements, without proper vapor control. When exposed to repeated humidity fluctuations can warp or develop mold growth. Treating or protecting vulnerable framing during construction prevents long-term structural and health concerns. Structural repair is always more invasive than preventative protection. Let's address cheap tile adhesive and grout. In bathrooms and kitchens, moisture exposure is constant. Low-grade adhesives can fail, causing tiles to loosen or crack. Poor quality grout absorbs moisture and stains quickly. Repairing failed tile installations often means full removal, not spot fixes. Labor-intensive demolition and reinstallation cost far more than investing in proper installation systems upfront. Another overlooked material issue is low-quality attic insulation blown at insufficient depth. Builders sometimes meet minimum code, but not optimal performance. Over time, compressed insulation loses effectiveness. Heat escapes in winter, heat penetrates in summer. HVAC systems work harder, energy bills climb. Upgrading attic insulation after construction can be done, but it's more complex and disruptive than installing sufficient depth initially. Insulation performance compounds annually in savings. Now let's talk about exterior decking materials. Untreated wood decking exposed to sun and rain deteriorates quickly. Boards warp, split, and require frequent staining or replacement. Upgrading to treated lumber or higher durability composite materials significantly reduces maintenance cycles. Replacing a deck prematurely involves demolition, disposal, and structural inspection. Maintenance cost alone often exceeds initial upgrade cost. Low-grade interior paint is another financial trap. Cheap paint requires more coats, provides weaker coverage, and scuffs easily. Walls need repainting sooner. Labor is the most expensive component of painting, not the paint itself. Investing in high-quality paint reduces long-term repaint frequency. It's a small decision with compounding effects. Now step back and recognize the pattern. The materials that should never be used are not always the absolute cheapest on the shelf. They are the ones that fail under predictable stress, moisture, impact, UV exposure, temperature shifts, and daily wear. Homes are dynamic environments. Materials expand, contract, absorb, and resist. Choosing materials that cannot handle these forces creates vulnerability. In 2026, with repair costs rising and skilled labor harder to schedule, every material failure is amplified. A minor leak becomes a weeks-long scheduling issue. A siding replacement becomes a major logistical expense. A cabinet failure becomes a kitchen disruption. Think long-term, think 10 years ahead. Which materials will still look intact? Which systems will still perform? Which surfaces will show wear? Which components are hardest to replace once the home is finished? The most expensive materials are not the ones that cost more upfront. The most expensive materials are the ones you have to buy twice. When evaluating materials, consider life cycle cost instead of sticker price. Ask about moisture resistance, ask about UV stability. Ask about expansion tolerances, ask about warranty terms and realistic lifespan. A material with a shorter warranty often signals shorter durability. There is also the resale factor. Buyers recognize quality subconsciously. Solid doors feel different. Durable floors look different. Consistent finish signal investment. Homes built with visibly cheap materials struggle to command premium offers. But beyond resale, there's emotional stability. Living in a house where materials hold up creates confidence. You're not inspecting edges for swelling. You're not listening for loose tiles. You're not budgeting prematurely for replacement. Building is about layers of protection. Each material either strengthens that protection or weakens it. Weak layers create cascading problems. Strong layers create resilience. Avoiding these 10 materials is not about luxury. It's about refusing future regret. It's about understanding that every shortcut carries interest, and that interest compounds. The difference between a home that ages gracefully and one that deteriorates quickly often comes down to decisions made before walls are closed and finishes are applied. So before you approve material lists, before you accept substitutions, before you cut budget from critical components, pause. Evaluate durability, evaluate exposure, evaluate replacement difficulty. Because when materials fail, they don't fail politely, they fail expensively. And in 2026, with costs where they are, that's a mistake you simply cannot afford to make.